When you want to know the future of this world, in many times it's a good idea to keep an eye on what's going on in Israel. And I want to start this video by mentioning a couple of points that I believe are connected to each other. Starting with the fact that the first corona lockdown that took place in Israel in April of 2020 was one of the strictest lockdowns in the world. Police officers were patrolling in many cities in order to enforce the temporary emergency standards that state that people are not allowed to leave their homes for more than 100 meters. During this hermetic lockdown, as the local government called it, many 5G antennas were installed around the country. The second point I wanted to bring up is that Israel was the country that introduced the green passport. In other words, this country was the pilot for discrimination against unvaccinated citizens. This discrimination was also one of the most extreme examples of the execution of the green passport, with some losing their livelihood for their refusal to be injected. Third point is that Israel had an agreement with Pfizer that guarantees that Israel does not use any product other than Pfizer's.
פייזר ממשיכה להתייחס לישראל כאל המעבדה שלה בנושא הניסוי. סוכם שבישראל יחוסנו באופן בלעדי בחיסונים של פייזר. הנה הדברים כפי שאמר אותם.
And we, early in the pandemic, we'd established a relationship with the Israeli Ministry of Health where they used exclusively the Pfizer vaccine and they monitored very closely. So we had sort of a laboratory where we could see the effect. They'd immunized a very high proportion of their population very early. So it's been a way that we can almost look ahead. What we see happening in Israel happens again in the US a couple months later.
In my video End Times Prophecies 3, I showed the technology required for mind control on massive scale, and now we start seeing it used in practice. Lately there were a number of incidents of people getting stabbed with a knife after an argument on the road. Some people decided to leave their house with a weapon and the intention to murder the first person that gives them the excuse to do that. What's interesting is that this happens at the same time and around the same place, in an area of the country that is densely populated and covered by a lot of the antennas that were installed in 2020. And what does it have to do with mind control? I believe that this is the trial for activation of a frequency that triggers violent episodes in injected citizens. Since 2020, there were a few occasions with animals found dead nearby 5G antennas. The frequencies were tested first on animals and now it's time to experiment with humans. So again, the pilot starts in Israel and the trend will continue in other countries in a few months. And I expect that already in 2023, you will observe incidents involving a more bizarre behavior of people in the public domain, which will be a continual of the mind waves tests using the antennas.